Hello and welcome to the class today. Today we're drawing the statue of David. You definitely know what that looks like, but we're going to draw not the whole thing, we're going to draw a close-up of the face. So that should give us some interesting portrait practice. So we're going to show you what the zoomed in picture looks like, then we'll plan it out from there. So if you are a patron, you can go and download all the reference material for this class. I've got a wide view of the face and then the zoomed in version. So for the zoomed in version I've given you two versions, the one we're going to draw plus just a brighter version so we can see more details here in the darker areas like that, just for in case you need it. Then there's also a tiled template and a tiled sketch, or a tiled reference photo, I should say. So there's the template. You can go and sketch that out. I'm drawing on an A3 size today. You can obviously draw on any size you want, but I'm drawing on an A3. So I've got a 100-gram paper over here, which is on a sketch pad, a spiral bound sketch pad. And then there's the full size reference, which makes it always a lot easier when you're drawing. You've got a one-to-one reference to work from. Alrighty, so let's do a little bit of planning. Well, how would you even tackle something like this? So what I would do with a case like this is just try and get in initially as many of your basic tonal values and shadings as what you can. And then from there, you can go ahead and fine-tune and add specialized shadings and all those kinds of things in to get all those little details and stuff correct. So I would start by just laying down basic tonal values. The easiest tonal values that I can see here are the cheeks. So I'll start with the cheeks and then work in maybe the nose and then the mouth, get some basic eye work in. Just suggest something here as best we can on the forehead, and then you can see the hair's quite curly. Let's bring that guy into the view here. You can see the hair's quite curly, but because it's a statue, it's just shadings. So it's a nice drawing to do. And then there's a little bit of stuff in the background. We'll see. I think we'll do the portrait, and then we'll decide if we need to put in some background or not, or whether it looks nicer just on its own. Because then we'll have our sketch drawing, plus we'll have our reference photo, and then we can decide which one looks nicer. Alrighty, so let's start getting some of this shading in. And the way I'm going to do it is I'm just going to take a scrap piece of paper, and I'm going to take some graphite dust. So this is an 8B graphite dust. So you can do that by just sandpapering down one of your pencils, or you can buy the graphite dust ready dusted in the shop. And that's what I did. I bought a nice big bottle of graphite dust, and it's gonna last me for donkey's years. And then to do the actual shading, I'm going to just take a makeup sponge. You can get this at any makeup place. I got mine at the dollar store. Alrighty, and then on the page itself, I've taken some of my 8B graphite stick. So this is what I also used initially to make my graphite dust before I bought myself a nice big bottle. It's just a graphite crayon. So you can take this and also just scratch it over a spare piece of paper, and that way you've got yourself a area that's got graphite on it, which is not going to be as dark. It won't go down as dark onto your drawing as when you pick up graphite dust. So that's great for dark areas, and this is great for the lighter tonal areas. Alrighty, so first things first is that we need to get this sketched out onto the onto the drawing paper. So I have now just put that graphite dust back for a second into the model, because I'm going to use this scratch piece of paper, and I'm going to use that as basically carbon paper to transfer my sketch outlines. So I'll just gently put that down and make sure it doesn't move on the drawing paper, because otherwise it's going to make marks which we're not going to want. And now you can use a pen or a pencil or anything that you want just to sketch over there. So I'm not going to go ahead and do that. You do the same. So what I do like to do is I'll do just now a little area. And then I'll stop. So to make sure that I can lift this guy up and put him back down again, I've used low tack masking tape to stick him down over there, which essentially has now formed a hinge. Let's pick him up gently. There we go. So look what happened. I've now transferred the outlines onto my drawing paper, but because it's literally graphite, I can go and erase that at any time if I do want to. Great, so now that I know my transfers are working, now I can go ahead and continue with the rest. So as you do, also just remember you've only got your graphite is only up to there, that transferring graphite paper. Move him up to do the second side, otherwise you're going to find yourself transferring all these lines for nothing. When you are transferring onto your paper, try not to press too hard. You don't want to dent the paper, the actual drawing paper itself. You don't want to score grooves into that as you're doing your transfers. Alrighty, so once you've sketched out everything like this, now you want to check that you've transferred all your lines, because once you take this off, you can't put it back down at the same place. So I'm going to just keep flipping it backwards and forwards like this. And as I do, I'm going to check a specific area. So I keep my eye there and I move the paper backwards and forwards. And that way I can see whether I've missed a line. So just go ahead and do this until you've checked everything and you're happy everything is in place. And once you're happy, you can remove your mask. He's done his job. Alright, so now you can just take your makeup sponge and your paper with the graphite on it and just rub over it very gently to pick up some of this graphite. So you'll notice I've rubbed it over the graphite that I've rubbed onto the paper and not the graphite dust yet. You rather want to start a little bit too light than a little bit too dark. So now what I'm also going to do is just start at a dark area just to test, to see how much graphite is coming off of the sponge and how dark is that graphite, just so that I can get a feel for, then you can get a feel for how dark is it, what kind of tonal value is coming off that sponge of yours. And then you're starting at the dark so that you can gradually work into the lighter areas as the graphite on the sponge gets less and less and less. Okay, so all I'm doing now is just getting myself a feel for where all these little contours and things are. Just judge them as best you can. Don't worry if the tonal value is 100%. They won't be at this point, and that's okay. All we're interested in is just getting things placed. In other words, you can think of this whole step here that we're doing now, just planning. That's all it is, it's just planning. Because at this stage, your whole drawing is just blank paper. So by laying down some tonal values, at least you're now starting to give yourself tonal values that you can compare against. So I'm pressing super soft on the sponge. There's no pressure whatsoever. All I'm trying to do at this stage is just get some tonal values happening over there. So in an ideal world, all these tonal values of yours will also be a little bit too light. Because it's easier to darken something up than it is to lighten it up. This step here is just helping you to save you from adding lots and lots of layers of pencil, because now you're adding, those are first initial layers. You're adding them really quickly. As you can see, I haven't picked up any more graphite. So the graphite that's on the sponge is now gradually becoming less and less. And that's great. That's exactly what I want, because now I'm able to add in some more subtle shadings already. Yeah, great. You see, now we've already got ourselves a bit of a look going here. Great, so you just keep building up some tonal values here. Where you see it's darker, add a little bit darker. Where it's lighter, make it a little bit lighter, and so on. Don't worry about super fine details like the ears and so on yet at this stage. Let's just get the worst of the face put in. Right, so I have now picked up a little bit more graphite dust, because this little piece here under the nose is reasonably dark. So just a little bit more graphite dust onto the onto that sharpest little tip over there. Great. Now as you do this, just be careful when you do get to the darker areas that you don't kill any of your construction lines. You want them to just stay there for now. So if you need to, you can use a pencil just to darken them up. And re-establish them again. Alright, so let's get this little piece over here darker. Just that off beyond the nostril wing. Just giving that a little bit more tonal value, simply by going over it multiple times. Because that's not going to allow us to come in over here on the nose and add some tonal value there. Yeah, that's good enough. Yeah, great. I think I can visualize my nose there now. Let's get that little dark central area on the mouth plotted out. So that's very dark. So if I can just get myself a little bit of a shading there. Because at the moment the sponge is also too thick to do that fine work. But just a little bit of a shading there is enough just to give me a feel. Look at that. It's just a few minutes and we've already got ourselves somewhat of a likeness. How cool is that? Alrighty, so over there I've gone over the line, so I'm just going to use my kneaded eraser for now and just get rid of that, whatever's in the background, because I'm now not sure whether we're going to leave the background white or whether we're going to color it. So for now we'll just keep it nice and clean. Great. Right, so this is quite a bit more complex over there, right? So I think what I'm going to do here for now is I'm just going to give this paper of mine just another layer of graphite. Then I'm going to pick up a little bit more of that graphite, and I'll start here by those heavy frown lines, because I know they need to be darkest. So I'll start there by them, and then I can fade outwards. Every time I start a new frown line, I'm going to pick up new graphite dust. Then as I fade it out, I'm just looking to see where's the lights and where's the darks on that frown itself. There's a thin little frown line, so I'll just add a thin little line there for myself. I can see that. Great. And over here too, let's start just, because this is quite complicated and complex. So I'm going to start by getting the darkest bits in. Am I getting them in dark? No. All I'm doing is just plotting and planning. Getting rid of white of the paper so that I've got some contrasts that'll start to show me some depth and dimension, which will allow me then to see the rest. It's now much easier for me to visualize once I've got some tonal value down there. I suppose in a sense you can call this just the blocking in stage, like you would with a painting or an underpainting. You can also think of it that way. Think of it as an underpainting. Yeah, great. We can already start to picture those hairs over there. Let's get these guys in. Right. Yeah, I think we can get a few little lines here in by the ear. There, it looks like I judged something wrong. Yeah, that's fine over there. We've got that dark in the nose over there. Here. Yeah, there's also just a little bit of shading there for now. Great. Are you starting to see David popping out? I am. Alright, so what you want to do at this stage is just double check that you're happy with the positioning of stuff. Have you judged all these things correctly and so on? For example, there I could see that little the cheekbone. I didn't get him quite high enough. He needed to go a little bit higher than that. Okay, so I think that's about as good as we're going to get with a sponge. Now I'm going to stick with this, but now I'm going to take a cloth and I'm just going to put my finger inside the cloth like that and pick up little bits of graphite dust at a time, because with my finger I can work a little bit more accurately. And I'm still just working on getting the basics in place, but now we've got an initial, just a planning layer, and so that we can start to visualize a little bit of 3D. So now we're going to build on that 3D and get it looking a little bit more, gradually more and more accurate. So you start off with nothing, get something, and then you take that something and you turn it into a little bit more detail. For example, here I'm just darkening up for that little bit of cheekbone in that area over there. And like little areas over here underneath. As this face curls down, it's going to get less and less sunlight. So this bottom bit here has got to go darker. So I'm just gently rubbing more tonal value into that darker area over there. Here, this fades out. So using my finger and a super light pressure with the cloth, I can get that very gentle little shading over there, which you could never do with a makeup sponge. Same as over here, it's got a super gentle little shading over there. So I'm putting that in there with a makeup sponge, and I'm bringing him down to that area over there. So as I'm working on this face, what I'm looking for are just tonal values. I'm looking on my reference photo. So let's, for example, let's just do that. So I'm taking my reference photo and I'm just comparing that with that. For a start, the positioning of what I'm doing over there, and then secondly, the tonal value, like that. See there? And I'm going to work on those now as much as I can to get it as accurate as what I can using the cloth. And as I do this, you're going to find that I'm also going to work a little bit here, a little bit there, and so on. That way, my tonal values are going to gradually come together at the same time. Here, things are a little bit too thin for my finger. My finger's too broad, so I can't work there. So I'll just skip those areas. They'll end up being drawn with a pencil. At the end of the day, the more I can do with the sponge and with the cloth and my finger like this, the quicker I can draw. The minute you go over to the pencil, things start taking a lot longer. So you don't want to make it hard on yourself that you have to take twice as long or 3 times as long as what you need to. So it's better if you can use your cloth or your sponge and get you there quicker, then why wouldn't you? Right, so needless to say, at some point over here you're going to find that you probably end up going too dark as well. That's definitely going to be a possibility, that you go too dark too quickly on something. So if you do find that you've gone too dark somewhere, just take your page like this and your kneaded eraser, roll your kneaded eraser into a ball like that, and then roll it over your paper. What you're doing is you're picking up graphite onto here, and it's dirtying up your eraser. So that way your eraser is not going to be picking up too much at a time. And if you need to pick up flat areas, then you can just press it on your palm like this, just to create a flatter ball. But make sure that all the edges are rounded, because there's no hard edges on a face really. Everything is nice and light and rounded and smooth. So by using the rounded edges on the eraser like this, it'll take out nice, smooth, basically give you a shading as you're erasing. See that? So when I draw, I'm drawing quite slowly and methodically. Because in the end of the day, we need to work quite accurate, because we need to get a likeness of the statue, because people know what it looks like. They don't know fine details, but you at least need to get the basics right. And if you get those basics right, then will have a nice likeness. And those basics come here from this initial stage. If you get those basics right here now, people are going to be pretty amazed at what you've drawn. And as with the sponge, I'm not pressing hard on the cloth whatsoever. It's all super gentle work. So over here we can go considerably darker. What I like about using your finger as well, because your finger is also rounded. So as you do, it's also not giving you any hard edges. It's all nice and soft. As good as shadings. Alright, so here I'm not going to get that as dark as we need with the cloth. The cloth you can't go dark either. So then those really dark areas like that, we'll have to just get as good as we can, and then we'll come back with a pencil and stuff to get those final tonal values right. Right, so I'm taking a look. In this scene, the sun is coming from the left to the right. So take a look at this cheek. Is not as dark as that cheek. So I'm going ahead here and just adding a light layer of tonal value across this whole cheek, including the lightest area. Also, so here's also not so easy to get all these tonal values right, simply because it's not going to go as dark as what we needed. So all I'm going to concentrate on is just getting myself some suggestion of what's going on there. That we'll have to do all with mostly with the pencil. But like areas like this, we can at least block it in and get rid of the white of the paper as best we can. And over here, again, nothing is white paper. So we can, except there's a little bit. So all of this, we can instantly just give it a layer of tonal value over there. Okay, over here, just there's a bit of neat white, so I'll avoid that area. And over here as well, all of this has also got, none of this has got neat white. So we can add a little bit of tonal value onto all of that. Great. Start getting a little bit more shading over here. Haven't worked on this part of the cheek yet. Super light, gentle pressure. Right. Okay, let's take a look over there. We've got some markings that we've made with our initial transfer. So we know now, and we can now judge where those marks are. So I'm going to lighten and I'm going to erase these guys simply because they're very subtle shadings over here. So these marks, if you don't erase them, they're going to stay visible. So I'll erase them there for now. I'll easily be able to estimate where they are from here on out. The same with this side over here. Just going to gently tap over those marks just to get the, because they're a little bit darker than what they need to be. So just by doing that, and here I'm going to just soften up these marks for the same reason. Yeah, that should do the trick over there. Great. Right, so we've got ourselves a likeness there already. So now, from here on out, we're going to be working a bit more detailed using pencils. So we don't want to smear any of this. So what you want to do is take some tracing paper and put that underneath your hand. Like that. So you can still see through it, which is quite nice. That's why I like using the tracing paper as opposed to just a scrap piece of paper. So if you don't have this, obviously you can use a scrap piece of paper, but you obviously won't be able to see through it. Great. What we'll do now is I like to start with establishing some really nice darks. And I'm going to do that by starting with the eyes. So we'll start with the eyes. That'll also give us some life. So let's pop down our pencil legend over there, then you can see which ones I'm using. Before we continue, I want to briefly tell you about my real-time paint and draw along art classes on my website. For a very small amount, you can get access to over 400 paint and draw along tutorials where you pack out your art supplies and you follow along as I show and explain to you in step-by-step detail how to complete each project. There are classes in acrylic, oil, watercolor, pencil, soft pastel, and even lesser known mediums like pen and ink and sketchboarding. There's a link in the description below. Take a look. You'll be amazed at the awesome classes available there. Alrighty, let's continue from where we left off. So I'm going to start with a nice sharp point pencil. So this is an 8B. Then we'll work on getting those darkest tonal values in. But I'm not going to press hard with a pencil. I'm just going to gently get these tonal values in. And are these tonal values going to be correct? No, not yet. Always start too light and work your way darker. So essentially I'm now just coloring everything in here. Just to get an initial getting rid of the paper little session. Absolutely no pressure on the pencil whatsoever. I'm letting him do his own thing. And I'll just add 1 or 2 little layers. So that's probably enough for now. Got that, that's good. And then here's a little line. As that eye curls over there. So there's quite a bit of a dark area over there. He's going to end up shading over there. And here, so here I can see some of my initial sketch lines are a little skew, and now's the time to fix them. Just slightly adjust those little lines. Okay, we've got this. there's going to be another little darker bit over there. Yeah, and there's all sorts of little funny marks and stuff from the stone, which I'm initially not going to worry about. I'm going to draw this as though it's just a flat-skinned person, if you want to call it that. In other words, there's no pores, there's no textures, there's nothing. It's just plain. While we're at it, let's get some of this done over here. Because you do sort of need to draw that outside edge of the eye and the surrounding areas of the eye at the same time. Okay, so this here is the eyelid. What happens with the eyelid is it's dark inside there. Then as it comes out, it gradually gets more light. So I'm just laying down some tonal value in that inside bit over there, and just less and less as I come out. So at the end of the day, I've got that. Right, so over here, we need to do a bit more of a lighter shading. So let's maybe go over to, let's say even an H for now. And I think we can use the cloth and just give the rest of this eye, the inside of the eye, a good little, very quick little layer of tonal value. That should be that lightest color that we see. Okay, so just some basic shadings. All I'm concentrating on now is just getting a little bit of shading from dark on the outside, lighter towards the inside, just to make the eyeball look rounder. Yeah, I think that initial blending over there is fine. That initial tonal value we've put on there is fine. Because now I'm going to take my blending stump. I'm just going to start working this in here. The idea being that the blending stump will now push some of this graphite into the tooth of the paper. And that's going to darken up a lot of this stuff that we've put in here. Can you see that? Instantly it goes darker. All that 8B work, which wasn't dark initially, has now suddenly gone dark. So you can see here you've got that tear duct area. So it goes slightly lighter towards that inside bit. So you can see I'm already forming myself a little bit of shading there, even though it's way, way, way too light still. I still want to keep that shading so that I don't lose it somewhere along in the process. I want to keep it. And as always with the blending stump, I'm not pressing hard. No pressure there whatsoever. Just letting it do its own thing. Great. Now I'm going to slowly start building up these tonal values until they're right. Because now you've got a good feel for what goes where. Okay, so can you see there's all sorts of little textures and stuff inside the eye. For now, don't bother with that whatsoever. Let's just work on getting these shapes and things right. Remember, we gradually build up the different details. More and more and more. And initially, the most important detail of them all is the tonal value. So another advantage of building stuff up gradually like this is that it's really easy for you to move things and fix things and so on. Because as you go along, you'll find that you may notice that something is not quite in the place where it should be and so on. Now if you've started off light and gradually gone darker, then you can move stuff around while it's light quite easily. Alright, so this is now the lighter area, and I want to do some shading over here. So I'm going to just go over to a, I think let's stick with a 2H pencil. Just going to gently do some shading over here. Yeah, I think for now that there seems alright. Okay, let's get this over here a little bit darker. Because you've got a shading, it's at its darkest over there on this iris. And then it's gradually going lighter towards this side over here. And then that area there is the lightest of the lot. But you're still not lighter than that. Just tiny little circular motions like this. Great. Alright, so can you see we've now got sort of the basics in place. On the inside of the eye, on the eyeball itself. So what I'm going to do, the thing is I'm reasonably happy with that. Now I'm going to take a look at all these little other details. These imperfections, for example, there's a little bit of a chip. There's a little mark over there, so I'm going to just gently tap it in. There's a little mark over there. There's quite a prominent little dark bit. And then there's a bit of a darker shading over here. So just shade over that little bit. Over there like that. And don't panic if you don't get them 100% in the right place. That doesn't matter. I promise you nobody's going to have noticed. Nobody knows this, the look of this off by heart or anything like that. So if you get something a little bit out, yeah, all good, doesn't matter. What you're doing here now is just getting that look of the stone. That's what you're getting here now. So all sorts of little marks, and dabs, and dots. Just tap, tap, tap over little areas like that. And I'm even going to use just my kneaded eraser and just tap and dab in between those areas as well. That'll also help. Let's get this here a little bit darker. Just enough so that when I do go over it with an eraser, things will show up, because what happens is, to get that there, it's a groove chiseled out of the out of the stone. So as you've chiseled that groove out, it's rounded off. So that little rounding gets itself a little bit of a highlight. You can see it over there on the inside of on the iris side, and here on the white of the eye, you can see it over here. So just by erasing that, gives you that those little dimples and things. Very light little drags of the pencil here and there. I'm going to just tap here and there as well with the eraser, just to essentially make that area just uneven. Just little bits of unevenness. And you can obviously sit here for hours getting this looking absolutely perfect, but don't. Alright, so here, again, as you've chiseled this out, that stone has rounded off itself on those edges. So I'm using my 2H pencil, or my H pencil rather, and I'm just going over in between this and that. And that's rounding off that edge just by adding a little bit of a shading over there. Don't make it too wide, it's a nice quick little shading. Alrighty, let's adjust this guy. So he needs to go a little bit broader in that area. And just off the edge, you've got a nice little highlight happening over there. That highlight fades out to this side and to that side. Great, let's darken up that inside bit over there. So now it's back to just very gentle adding tonal value onto the paper that we can use with the blending stump. To darken up. In other words, you're just laying graphite down. The pencil will darken itself up without you having to press hard. There's a funny little, just an extra little kink chiseled out over there. It's not white, so I'm just adding a little bit of tonal value on it. I think it's those little details there that made this statue so amazing, because there was tons and tons of details in it. Alright, so this guy over here. It comes out and he sort of fades away and goes a little bit lighter in these areas over here. So again, just to get that little bit of a look of the stone, I'm going to add some just dibbles and dots in there like that. Then I'll come back in here with the blending stump, just gently coax that tonal value just to the correct darkness. Okay, it's nice and dark in there. Cool. See, here's a nice interesting piece, because we've got a little bit of a chip out of the stone. So I'm going to get that edge tapped in there like that. And you see I'm not using solid lines, I'm just using dabs and dashes to form a line. As it comes around here, it sort of it breaks up and stuff. I think what happened was the stone was maybe just a little bit soft. Don't know what stone has been used, but maybe just a little bit soft. And it just broke off over there, and there was nothing you could do. Cool, so I'm going to take my blending stump and just dabs and taps inside that little chip piece, just to get it darker, but not one solid darkness. So just by tapping it like this, with this, gives you those little marks and stuff. Cool, that goes to there. Right, now we can get our overall tonal value right, just using the pencil. Oh, that's cool over there. That looks great. Alrighty, let's work here on this underside of the eye. So I've marked, you can see the little dotted line there and a dotted line there. So there's the thickness of the eyelid, which is a very subtle little line there initially. And I'm adding this one here also just initially as a subtle line directly onto that dotted line from the sketch. Just like that. So what's that going to do is it's going to get rid of that, the line itself. Then maybe we can come back in with something a little bit softer, maybe a B pencil. And I'm going to work outwards. Just start working on these little tonal values over here. So what this essentially is the skin itself is making little humps and bumps. So all of this here is shadings. So here inside this little fold, it's darkest there, but it's not a solid fold. It goes in and then it comes back out again, and you can see all of that. So there's no physical found line or a hard edge over there. It's all just continuous shadings. And here's another. Here's the next bump over there. Running down this way. So I'm going to put that in with the most gentle touch on the pencil that I can muster. I'd much rather use lots and lots of different little layers and multiple layers over another to get this right. Okay, let's just get this tonal value over here, that initial tonal value right over there. That's great. Okay, so I'm going over this line, but I'm going a little bit to the left, a little bit to the right. So that instantly gives me that shading that I'm looking for. Super soft touch. Absolutely no pressure or anything whatsoever. Right, let's go down here. I think that there may already be a little bit too dark, so I'm going to come back and lighten him up. Just by rolling over it with a kneaded eraser. That will just soften that up. This is quite cool. It's not white at all. Okay, I think that should do there for now. Here's another something coming down here, but I think that something going down there is sort of more markings on the stone as opposed to actual shadings because it's shape. So let's go back up to here and let's start working on this, which is the thickness of the eyelid. So underneath there, it's dark. There's another broken off piece, so we'll continue around here and it just goes thinner and thinner to there. So what I'm initially looking for is just that little shading or that little shadow under that lip over here. As that little lip from the eyelid it curls over ever so slightly, you cast a shadow. Okay, that's about as dark as I'm going to be able to get with the H pencil. So let's go over to an HB. So that's the green pencil. Still pressing super light. You can see the HB is just gives you that extra little bit of tonal value that we're missing over there. Cool, so let's dent him down. And down, it seems to be around here. There's where that chipped out piece is. Okay, and all of this here is a tonal value. So I'm gently going over there with the HB. So what happens there with this little, you can say the lower eyelid, as it curls around like this, is lighter over here and is gradually getting darker and darker as it curls away from the light. So initially we can start off with an HB there, that's fine. But then we'll have to go back to an H as we come around here to the lighter area. So that tonal value is now gradually getting lighter and lighter and lighter. Cool, let's get our blending stump. In actual fact, I think I'm not going to use a blending stump, I'm going to use a brush. The brush is going to give us a nice smoothing over there, but it's going to be a bit more subtle as far as darkening up the tonal values are concerned, because the bristles are softer. Yeah, that's better. I'm quite happy with that. Over here, all the stuff is still too light, so I'm gradually just darkening him up. Alright, so let's work on that little chipped out piece there again. So nice sharp pencil. It's very low contrast there. So I think what I'll do is I'm going to use an H pencil, but the round point, not a chisel point. And let's just work on getting an indication of where these little chips and things are out of it. So guys, as before, I'm suggesting them. Are they in the right position? Yeah, probably not. Doesn't matter. No! So what each of those little chips does is it forms its own little highlights and its own little shadow. So that's all I'm doing, is I'm adding in that little bit of a shadow on each one there. Alright, so back to the B pencil. I think now that we're happy with where everything is over there, I'm going to press just a little bit harder to get that little ridge itself. Just a nice sharp line, a found line. And now I'm going to lay off the pressure again, just to get that shading right. Just so that it fades out. Right, so now last step we need to do on that little area there is just work on getting all these little tonal values and stuff right. We're going to do that just by continuing to add little layers. There's another little darker little patch over there. Just like that. Great, let's continue working over here. So here I'm going to just lay down more and more tonal value, because as this guy comes around here, there's a little darker edge over there. Like that. And that little darker edge comes around to meet this over there. So you'll see it's darker here and a little bit lighter over there. It's all very subtle shadings. Very, very subtle. Right, that's probably good as that's going to get over there. And here it's a little bit darker. So you've got that little bit of a higher, lighter piece over there. Alrighty. Okay, just over here, I want to make this just a little bit more of a found line over there. So I'm just tapping with my eraser. Just over that line over there. So it's not a solid erase, it's just taps. Up and down. So that's going to give me that tonal value correction over there. But it won't lose that nice stone texture. It maintains that stone texture. Because you do have to get this tonal value right over here, because that there tells you there's sunlight. There also needs to go a little bit darker. And this now fades out from over there. Okay, great. Here it's just a basic little shading. So I'm making it darker on the inside, on this edge, and darker there on that side, on the outside edge. So that that little central bit over there is lighter, and that makes it look round like this. And then, yeah, that little piece we erased is not white. So I'm just going over it very gently with that blending stump, just to add some tonal value into that area over there. Fantastic. Now in this little inside piece over there, I know is right now. So now I am pressing hard just to get that last little bit of dark in over there. I try not to press hard, but sometimes you have to do just a little bit of pressure at the end of the day. Alrighty. Yeah, I think for now we'll stop at that. Let's stand back and let's see what we've done. Yeah, so we've got a nice basic shading. We can see our face, and we've got lots of detail in over there. So what I want you to do is continue to do the same detail in the same places, just on that eye over there, and then you stop. Then in the next class we'll work on the the nose and the mouth. So good luck with your eyes. I'll see you next time.